Hello YouTube, long time no see. I'm here today to talk to you about a movie that recently came out, Blade Runner 2049. And if you haven't seen the original, I suggest you check it out. But from now on, this video will contain some spoilers, so I recommend just watching the first film, or the final cut. Both of them just run under 2 hours, so it's an easy watch. Alright, here we go. Blade Runner was a film directed by Ridley Scott. To place some context on the film situation, this was right after Alien, which came out in 1979. It was just before the final Star Wars film of the era. It was a great step, in a forward sense, for science fiction, with Blade Runner and all, and Ridley Scott directing it. The film takes into consideration the premise of the novel Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick. What happens in Blade Runner is it's set in a dystopian Los Angeles in 2019. The story depicts the future in which synthetic humans known as replicants are bioengineered by the powerful Tyrell Corporation to work on off-world colonies, which are never shown in the film, but it's a cool concept. When a fugitive group of replicants led by Roy Batty escape back to Earth, and burnt-out Los Angeles cop Rick Deckard, played by Harrison Ford, reluctantly accepts one last assignment to hunt them down. During his investigations, Deckard meets Rachel, a young, advanced replicant who causes him to question his mission. Now, this is a very simple premise. To me, it was very interesting how Ridley Scott chose the story Do Sheep Dream... What was it? Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? Like, that doesn't make sense. The story, but the novel was written in 1968. Blade Runner was an amazing concept, but the execution was just weird, and I'm gonna tell you why. I liked Blade Runner the first time I saw it, and since I've seen it a couple of more times, but it just doesn't fit my taste. My favorite film of all time is Scarface. You'll hear that a lot as you see my reviews in the future. As for sci-fi, I like the aesthetic and the universe of Blade Runner. Same goes for Mad Max. It's this dystopian feel of a decaying society and the atmosphere. Blade Runner created and opened the path for many more films of the same style to come afterwards. This is one of the reasons it had such an impact in film and such a cult following since then. It was the implications of Blade Runner and the replicant's sole purpose of being human that made this film unparalleled and just plain awesome to study and think about. It was like a scientific experiment, basically, film-wise. Because you know Ridley Scott, how he likes to riddle you and shit. I guess the name has to go with it, I don't know. But for me, the best parts of the movie, other than what I mentioned before, are the soundtrack and the final 5 minutes of the film. Not the literal 5, the metaphorical 5. In which, after, the evil replicant Roy Batty says his final lines.
I've seen things you people wouldn't believe. Attack ships on fire off the shoulder of Orion. I watched C-beams glitter in the dark near the 10-house gate. All those moments will be lost in time, like tears in rain. Time to die.
Then the movie gets interesting. Like the Terminator, or Terminator 2, because it's super exciting. Rick Deckard runs off with Rachel and stuff is gonna get it's gonna be a chase scene. It's gonna be like these fast-paced action sequences one after another. Yeah, run, Rick Deckard and Rachel. Rachel's the love of your life. Like all this exciting stuff. No. Credits just roll. Ridley Scott, what the fuck? You left me with this whole goddamn universe of awesomeness, and now you just... Fuck. You left me hanging, bro. You left me hanging in a way that I don't appreciate. And I'm just I'm so mad about this because this movie could be so awesome, but it was 1982, so taking things into consideration and context, I think the phrase "it couldn't have been better" kind of fits, but I digress. Ridley Scott is an amazing guy. He's made some amazing movies like Gladiator, which is one of my all-time favorites, and also Alien. Let me take a breath. How do you top Alien? You can't, like, it's the horror sci-fi masterpiece that it is. It's so cool. Like, another movie that's comparable is The Thing with Kurt Russell, but it's, bear with me. So, the film is complete, but I always craved more. More of the story, more character development, and more of the relationship arc. Deckard and Rachel were just running away, so I was always wondering, what happens next? And 35 years have gone by, and holy mother of all that is holy in film. I'm getting ahead of myself, but bear with me again. I'll dissect it like I did with the original. Blade Runner 2049 includes everything the universe of the original set up and promised to deliver, and more. This movie is directed by Denis Villeneuve, sorry if I mispronounced the name, who also directed Prisoners, Sicario, and last year's Arrival, which by the way is an amazing sci-fi film, you should check it out. No spoilers here for that, but anyway. Once I knew he was directing, I knew he would not disappoint. The shots are perfect, the acting is fitting, the settings are more complex, and the characters' motivations are not only deeper, but clearer. And the runtime honestly feels appropriate. And I felt it drag once. Like, right after Harrison Ford shows up, it's like, okay, it dragged a little bit, and I'm like, no. You had such a good pace going, and the movie just, it didn't slow down, but it changed. Like, the atmosphere felt as though it was different. Because at the beginning of the film, like, not the beginning, the full 2 hours we've been watching this movie, it's been amazing, by the way, because I didn't even feel them. I was like, I've been sitting here for 2 hours. I was checking my watch. I'm like, when is Harrison Ford coming in? And I wasn't constantly checking, but as soon as he came in, I looked at it, and I'm like, I've been sitting in this theater for 2 hours. It feels like I've been here for, like, an hour tops. It didn't feel that long. Then Harrison Ford steps in, and I'm like, the movie takes not a turn, but a different direction and an approach to how the characters are interacting with one another. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. Set 30 years after the original film, Blade Runner 2049 depicts a replicant Blade Runner named Kay, who discovers the remains of a once pregnant replicant. To prevent a possible war between the replicants and the humans, Kay is secretly tasked with finding the child and destroying all evidence related to it, leading him to discover that the child bears a connection to missing Blade Runner Rick Deckard. It's a fantastic ride, orchestrated in a way that I have yet to witness in another movie. I don't like when the hero dies at the end normally. Funny because Scarface. But what it means for Kay, or Joe's character, to die is sublime. Like, there's a line in the movie that says, there's nothing more human than dying for the right cause. And that to me struck like a vein inside my political senses. It was like, wow, this film's epic. Not to mention, I thought the movie was gonna end visually with his death, which would have been fine. But with Rick Deckard finally meeting his daughter, and the fact that it makes just so much sense with like why her memories are the most beautiful and artificial realities, again, inexplicably beautiful. It's like, mind-blowing. Some instances of the film did strike me as, like, odd. Like Harrison Ford. Rick Deckard is in the movie for the last half hour, as I mentioned before. What? Like, he did fantastic. You connect immediately with this character, and after pinpointing the fact that he is a replicant, his actions in the previous film are less ambiguous. There is a clarity of emotion that lacked in the original. Also, it seems as though every character shown in the trailer would be in most of the film. But we stick with Kay for like 80 to 90% of the film. Which is outstanding. Like, sticking with one character and making it not boring is a challenge. So Dennis, props to you, buddy. But I feel as though this movie will stand the test of time better than its predecessor. Also, I'm left with one question. What next? Like, we're left with Neander Wallace, played by Jared Leto. I'm not one to say every movie needs to tie up loose ends. Like, because it leaves every question answered for the audience. You have to force your audience to think outside of the box sometimes for it to be an interesting and involving film with a good plot line. So I don't need every question answered, but what happens to Neander Wallace? Like, does he keep making replicants? Does he hire another assistant? Does he make another one that has another baby? I don't know, maybe could get interesting. And you know, Rick Deckard is still alive with his daughter now, and I'm like, okay, you know. Also, Harrison Ford in an interview said he would be interested if the script was good. Key aspect here of what he said. If the script was good, he would work on a sequel, or consider working it on another sequel. I couldn't be happier the sequel got made. So I rated 10 out of 10, 5 stars out of 2 unicorns, 2 rainbows out of 3 magic beans, and 6 full bags of fairy dust. That was it for my review. I hope you enjoy it, because I enjoyed making it. This is really fun for me, entertaining y'all. See you next time in the Carlos Rojas review.